Who's a teammate of yours that you thought, this guy is just a different specimen of a human? For me, Peyton Manning, that dude was a robot.
Yeah.
He was a complete different animal. I've never seen any human like him. I never will see another human. Just the way he ran shit. And everybody in that building knew that's what Peyton was doing. I mean, it's just, he was somebody I never understood as a human.
Yeah. I would say I'd say Marvin Harrison, because he never took practice off. And that's what we kind of learned. You practice how you play. It went from Marv to Reggie to myself, and so I just kind of learned how to be a pro in that manner. But Marvin Harrison would eat honey buns, donuts, ribs, buffalo wings, and all this bad stuff, would not gain an ounce. He probably looks the exact same right now, but he would eat the worst out of everybody and go out and burn DBs to crisp. And so, I never understood that. He would come in, he won't say much, but yet he was approachable. It was just he was just hard to figure out. But he was a very cool OG, and it was just like, man, how are you able to eat buffalo wings right before the game?
Hey, how about that? We've talked about this a couple times. That food the night before games with the first regime.
Oh,
and then when the nutritionist got in, I mean, it was a whole different world. I felt like I didn't appreciate the first couple of years of my carear enough whenever I was in it.
Yeah.
Wait, did they take away like ice cream and stuff on your Saturday night meals?
Yes, they snatched all of it, and we was about to protest that shit. What are we doing?
There was a lot of conversations, AJ. I mean, there was, because I was the youngest of the people that came from both regimes. So I never really had, like, for instance, my rookie year, whenever we decided to lose the last two games, OGs were not happy about that decision, but I was too young. I was not able to make it. I was not allowed to have an opinion at that point. But that was something I remember a lot of the OGs being like, we have a chance to potentially be a part of history here.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, granted, we lost to the Saints anyway, which would have ultimately ended that. But that was a decision that was not well received in the locker room.
Pat, but was that decision, was it made with, like, did the coaches and players talk about it, or was it just, did it come from the top?
No, that's from the top. It was from the top. So Caldwell took a whole lot of heat over that one, but that was over his head. So
I remember, AJ, I was so confused on what the fuck was going on, because that last game I had like a $1.5 million bonus on the line, and everybody was having the time of their life on the sideline at that point, because the first week against the Jets, when they subbed everybody out and put everybody back in, like Mighty Ducks line change basically, and everybody was like upset about it. The fans weren't happy, obvly.
We got booed. We were 14-0. We got booed.
The fans were booed. Yeah, it was, and I was still trying to figure out how to punt at that point, and I had a lot on the line. So then in the locker room during the week, the conversations are always like, man, why are we doing this? But then it got to Sunday where in Buffalo a blizzard comes. You remember that fucking blizzard came?
Man.
It was 1.5 feet snow.
Right.
It was wild. I had more money on the line on that game than I'd ever had in my entire life. And everybody that I was like friends with and hanging out with were all having like a preseason fucking session on the sideline. Peyton was throwing out, he threw out, I think, 15 armbands that game. A guy was just chilling. I mean, everybody that I talked to was just on the sideline chilling. And like, man, it's colder. And I'm like, not as cold as it's going to be if I don't get this fucking $1.5 million bonus. Can you guys please stay away from me? But that was a decision that was, I think, still to this day, probably one that you guys look back on and go, 16-0 would have been cool to be a part of.
Yeah.
Look good, feel good, play good.
Play good, pay good, live good, die good.